And just like that, it is 6 o'clock on a Monday morning, January 15th. This is the Martin Luther King Jr. holiday. And whether you're working or at home or whatever you're doing today, thanks for being part of Up North News Radio. For this Monday, I'm Pat Kreitlow here on Lake Wissota. Big sports morning for you after the Packers stunned the Dallas Cowboys. God, it felt so good. We're going to talk about that a lot just because it felt so good. Bucks with a buzzer beater victory. Plenty more to talk about. We will talk about Martin Luther King Day. We'll talk about some of the other stories making headlines on this Monday morning. Kristen Lyerly will join us as well. Luke Mathers from Waukesha. Yeah, he made the drive. He'll be part of this as well. That's all coming up at 6:06 across the Civic Media Radio Network. See you soon. All right, those are all correct. All right, is it clear that those are minus signs next to the temperature? I wonder if do I need to put a longer dash on those? I don't care. It's a radio show. Come on.
Maybe one more space in between the city and the temp would make it clearer, but I think it's...
You know what? StreamYard doesn't do that. It compresses things. I've tried to put in multiple spaces, and it's like, oh, no, you don't want that. You want this. Fine.
Stupid technology.
Stupid. All right, I'm going to get some more coffee.
across Wisconsin from Civic Media. This is Up North News Radio. Now, live from our Lake Wissota studio, here's the founding editor of Up North News, Pat Brightlow.
Well, hey there, Wisconsin. Good morning. Welcome to Monday. It's January 15th, 2024, 6:06 in the morning. It's another beautiful day to have you here up north because it's always beautiful up here live from Lake Wissota. But bring extra layers if you're coming on up here because wherever you're listening across the Civic Media Radio Network, Wisconsin is in the deep freeze this morning. What do we got here right now? I can go ahead and bring the 6 a.m. temperatures up a little early here. It's 9 below up here on Lake Wissota. Hayward's at -9 as well. Park Falls, 10 below zero right now. Wausau, -5. Green Bay at 3 below. La Crosse at 7 below. Wisconsin Rapids reports -4. Oshkosh at 1 below. Madison, 7 below. And Waukesha is at -9, where Luke Mathers is standing by. We'll get to him in just a sec. Just wanted to thank you first if you're listening through the Civic Media app or through one of our social media video feeds. It's nice to have you along. And if you would like to tell us how you're coping with the weather or talk about things that are in the news, our studio line, as always, is 844-967-2789. Again, 844-967-2789. You can call us. You can text that number as well. You can use your regular phone. You can use the Civic Media app and get right to us by phone or by text. Email us at radio@upnorthnewswi.com or leave a comment on one of the Facebook pages where we broadcast, all of it to share what we're doing with you over at upnorthnewswi.com. Up North News being a separate entity from Civic Media, but we absolutely love having this partnership with the Civic Media folks and urge you to go to civicmedia.us to learn where the stations are around Wisconsin on this growing network and learn about the many shows you can hear online and on demand. So anything happened this weekend? Yes. Luke Mathers is happy about, a early morning commute, in below zero temperatures. He's happy about the Bucks winning at the buzzer. But who are we kidding? Everybody's going to be talking about the Packers beating the Cowboys for years to come, Mr. Mathers. This is a very good morning.
How about them Cowboys?
How about them Cowboys?
Yeah, I was pleasantly surprised. I had, as we discussed last week, very, very little expectations. It was the house's money, and boy, did they hit the jackpot with that house money.
Oh, man.
It was amazing.
It was stunning. It was in the category of, is this real? I had friends texting me. I'd send back, shh, don't jinx it. Don't.
That's what it felt like at first because it was so favorable towards the Packers to start the game, and it's like the only thing that I could think of, even after a 3-touchdown lead, 20-0 lead, and I'm like, there's so much time left that you can't get too excited about this yet. You gotta wait. You gotta just hold off until they play a full 60 minutes because it was amazing.
But again, we got so few opportunities to go, oh, we're gonna blow this. We were on a high for much of the game. Unlike, do you see Roger's comment there from Facebook? Poor Jerry Jones, Roger writes. He had his hand in his face so many times his last facelift came loose.
Sure. Come on. Play nice in the comment section, folks. Come on.
Look, I seriously was wondering if Mike McCarthy would be fired at halftime. I seriously thought that was a possibility.
We were watching the game with some friends at their house, and that's what everybody kept kind of mummering about was like, is Mike going to get to leave the stadium? Like, still the head coach? And
right.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Obviously, some coaches are fired immediately after the games. I just wondering if there's ever been an instance yet where a head coach was like stopped from going into the locker room and say, you may go directly to your car now because you are done here. Right. In the wake of the game, there were still people saying, Mike McCarthy did a lot of good things. Number 2 seed, it'd be foolish to let him go. But we've met the Cowboys.
To put it all on Mike, though, that's not fair. Like,
Oh
you've
no,
got
that
a
yeah.
first year quarterback coming in and carving up one of the best defenses in the league. Like Dan Quinn, I think Dan Quinn, the defensive coordinator for the Cowboys, considered a shoo-in for one of the head coaching opportunities that is going to be available into next season. I think he's got a lot to answer for that. I think there's plenty of defensive players on the Cowboys that have questions to answer as well. But to put it all at the feet of Mike McCarthy, I think is silly. But boy, Jordan Love and the Packers, Matt LaFleur, and the offense had a plan. They came in and they executed it, and it looked amazing.
The other thing that was so surprising about it is that in one of the other games, was it Houston and Cleveland? And I mean, it was just a beatdown. And I thought, wait, are we going to see another one of those? That can't be. And sure enough, it was. So the Packers win. The final score was 48-32, but it was not that close. You know,
No, it was 48-16.
Got some scores in.
Yeah.
Yep. Got some scores in garbage time, but that was it. So the Packers knock off the number 2 team, and their reward for that is to go visit the number 1 seed, the San Francisco 49ers. And we learned overnight that game is scheduled for Saturday night. It's a Saturday night game against the 49ers. Yes, 7:15.
I missed that news while I was sleeping.
Kickoff. Yep, I just saw it a couple of minutes ago myself. And so, yeah, be aware. It's a Saturday night that you and your Packer watching buddies, whoever they are, you're all going to get together and do this on a Saturday night. And look, I get nervous every time the Packers play on Saturday nights because, you know, there's still that Philadelphia 4th and 26 game. And as far as the 49ers go, this will be an NFL record, according to J.R. Radcliffe at the Journal Sentinel. This will be an NFL record 10th time for the Packers and 49ers playing in the postseason. And the 49ers have won the past 4 of them. And
that means we're due, right? Come on, we're
due.
Due
Well, kind of like Dallas winning or losing at home. Yes, we're due. Let's do that. But I mean, most recently, it was 2 years ago. The 49ers came to Lambeau and broke our hearts, beating the Packers 13-10. And then just overall from count all the games with the 49ers recently, and they've won 4 of the past 5. So, again, house money. We're just
house money.
Just be loose, prepare. But
the one thing that I'm going to hope that the Packers can take from last night's victory is they got to play a full 60 minutes. If they give up some garbage time touchdowns like that, and all of a sudden make the game a whole lot closer against the 49ers, it's going to be a different story. So they just got to make sure. It seemed that there's the all gas, no brakes is the mantra apparently going around the Packers locker room, and they put it on full display last night, but they got to make sure that they truly live that if there's a chance of them doing the upset next weekend.
And I think they can. I think they now have a full head of steam. They understand what they did right and just try to continue to build off that momentum. Look, if you can get another game where Aaron Jones runs for 3 touchdowns, if you can get Jordan Love to throw 3 more TD passes as he did in his postseason debut, plus maybe Darnell Savage could get another 64-yard pick six, or
Jair
some
almost
other.
had one too. He barely got on that one. So
I know
it could happen. It could happen.
It was so fun to watch. You're like, wait, this is not supposed to happen this way.
No.
So,
well, and then one of our buddies that was watching the game with us, he is a Chicago Bears fan, but his wife is a Packers fan. So they were there in attendance. And he just looked over at me and my other buddy who was hosting Ben. And he just goes, how is this possible?
Right?
And I looked at him and I go, don't you know? God is a Green Bay Packers fan. And he just kind of rolled his eyes at me, and then Jordan Love threw another touchdown, and it was just it was amazing.
Yeah. It just, again, it's a cliche, but it's, cliches are usually true. This is why you play the game. If you just played it on paper, the Packers would not be advancing right now. You play it on the field, and the other cliche about football is any given Sunday.
Yep.
Or in this case, Saturday night against the 49ers is what we're facing next year. Meanwhile, more good news in sports, and yeah, we're a little sports heavy this morning. We'll get to news. The fact that we're not leading with the world blowing up or something should be good news. The world is not blowing up at last check. But the Badger men's basketball team, 15th ranked in the country, they beat Northwestern on Saturday, 71-63. They play at Penn State tomorrow, so they're still doing well. But the Bucks, again, I didn't watch that at all last night. First thing I see looking at my phone this morning is all kinds of people putting up Damian Lillard swishing a three-pointer at the buzzer in overtime to give the Bucks, and again, the word stunning, 143-142 win over the Sacramento Kings last night. The Kings were up by 4 late in overtime, but Brook Lopez made a three-pointer from the corner to pull the Bucks to within 1 with 11 seconds remaining. There were some free throws back and forth, and then Lillard's bringing the ball inbounds. He was supposed to inbound it to Giannis, but he saw Giannis was getting double teamed, so he puts it over to Lopez. Lopez right back to Lillard, who dribbled across half court and just swished it from 30 feet away, and the crowd went wild, understandably so. I mean, because they were already high on the Packer victory. Now you add that. The people that were at the Fiserv Forum last night, that was your best day ever, okay? Just go, even if you don't have a diary or a journal, go write down how you felt yesterday, because you may never top that, or very rarely top that. That was big.
I feel like it would be a very, very difficult moment in Wisconsin sports to top if you got to watch any portion of the Packer game and then were in attendance for that Bucks game.
Yeah, it was big. The Bucks will next be at Cleveland on Wednesday night. Badger men's hockey team 1-1 and tied 1 against Lindenwood, and the Badger women swept, so they will at the very least stay number 3 in the nation, and the new rankings come out a little bit later today. All right, now Dr. Kristen Lyerly will join us, as she often does on Mondays, in just a little bit, and she's going to stick around to talk not only about watching the Packer game in some other state, but also some serious topics that are in the news. And then, of course, Brittney Merlot will be around to tell us just how long we're going to be in the deep freeze. Please bundle up and bundle the kids up this morning. Again, we have wind chills in the 20s below zero. Wherever you're listening across Wisconsin on this Monday morning, when you're here, you're Up North. We'll be right back. The number one song this day in 1977 was by Leo Sayer. We'll have more musical memories in today's history lesson coming up in just a little bit. Luke Mathers is in for Greg Bach. Greg is going to be back tomorrow. Is that right? Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt your jam over there. It does strike me that you probably don't get to dance a lot to Leo Sayer the way that you can with us.
Exactly. I gotta take the opportunity when I have it.
And then his first breakout hit was what was it called? Long Tall Glasses or something. It was about going out dancing as well. So, he is your dancing king. Speaking of dancing king or dancing queen in this case, I don't think I even mentioned going to see an ABBA tribute band a few nights ago at the Pablo Center in Eau Claire.
No, tell me more.
What was it called? Mania. Yeah, I think Mania, the ABBA tribute band or something. My wife is a huge ABBA fan. We've seen Mamma Mia 6,000 times.
Wow.
And I, teased her. I wanted to hear what ABBA actually sounds like because I've been listening to Meryl Streep and Pierce Brosnan, singing ABBA for years now. So I thought, let's. Anyway, the people putting this on,
the best tribute band possible then.
Yes. So
right, there we go.
They were, they were really good. They were, cast well. They had all the 70s, loud colors and everything. The band was amazing. And again, I bring this up more just to congratulate everybody in the Eau Claire area for finally getting the Pablo Center built at the confluence and getting the Chippewa Valley a true performing arts center, because we've gone to several shows there and can't say enough about it. So it's always nice. Live music is always a great addition to any community. I accidentally went viral yesterday, Mr. Mathers.
Did you?
Yes, I was just working on a video for Up North News. It's not even on the Up North News site yet because we run everything through editors and double checkers. And usually what you do is if you make a video like explaining the news or, sharing an opinion or whatever, you put it on your personal account as just kind of a test, kind of a guinea pig thing.
Little
and then
test balloon.
Yeah. And you think, might get 5 or 6 likes, might get 1 to 200 views, and then you put it on the Up North News platform. This video still hasn't been there yet because I did it. I started it and finished it over a couple of hours on Saturday afternoon. And in it, I do several costume changes as I'm both a Democratic member of Congress and a Republican member of Congress. I'm Vladimir Putin. I am Zelensky from Ukraine. And apparently that struck a nerve with folks, the way I was talking about, how Congress is bottling up a border deal and aid to Ukraine. Again, none of this sounds like it's going to go viral. I turn on my phone like an hour after I put it up and it's got 10,000 views. It gets to 20,000 before long. Last I checked before I went to bed last night, it said 35,000 views. So clearly it struck a chord somewhere with folks.
Yeah, it got shared as wide and far, but it sounds like you had some fun with the costumes over the weekend.
Well, yeah, I did, as a matter of fact. What happened was when I was down on South Padre Island during our vacation, we were in a few of the different gift shops. And look, everybody should make sure to take this in its proper perspective. My one purchase there was a hoodie. It was a white zippered hoodie, but I mean, it was you're wearing the gaudiest American flag outfit that you possibly can. And that to me was pretty much half the Republican politicians I've ever seen marching in parades. The way they wrap themselves up in the flag as if they're the better Americans, when there's plenty of us who salute the flag. There's plenty of us who say the Pledge of Allegiance, but we don't wrap ourselves in it, as some kind of a shield. But it looked stereotypical. It looked comical. So I bought it because I knew at some point I was going to want to make a video, and I'm like, and I'm not going to wear a MAGA hat. I'm not going to I don't have one of the red hats. I'm like, this'll do it, and then I also have, I don't have it in here anymore, but from the time that we had a Russian exchange student 10 years ago, I have one of those big furry Russian hats, with kind of a badge on the front of it. It looks like, anyway, it's perfect. And so you wear that as Vladimir Putin. I have a BB gun not for shooting squirrels and woodpeckers. I would never do that. Nobody should. I don't know why I have a BB gun. Anyway, that you put on something green that looks like fatigues and suddenly, put yourself, superimpose yourself on a Ukrainian battlefield. And you've got all the elements for a video that tells a nice little story, which again, I thought might get 200 views. And here we are at 35,000. And so now I'm just waiting for when the Up North News staff comes in, and most of them have today off because it's Martin Luther King holiday. So come Tuesday, they'll be like, why didn't you put this on immediately? I'm like, I'm just following the procedure here.
Right. You're just doing it by the book.
Well, and there's a good reason for it, because I started another one yesterday that explains the 4 election days in Wisconsin. There's election days in February, April, August, and November. And so I superimposed myself on a calendar and with the dates circled. And as I'm editing it, I realized I circled the August date wrong. So I had to go in. I could have just as easily posted that and then would have gotten all kinds of blowback for not knowing election days. So there's a whole reason there's checks and balances. Look at Dr. Lyerly's pinging in already. Should we let her in? We should. She's already there. Dr. Lyerly, hello.
Good morning. How are you guys?
Oh, we're great. There was a lot of Packer chatter that we're going to do with you in a couple of minutes. I was just recounting my accidentally viral video that went up over the weekend. But now that you're here,
Pat's going to be asked to do TikToks all the time now.
We're going
to have to suspend the radio show because Pat's time is going to be just full TikTok content creator.
Well,
the Pat Kreitlow TikTok hour.
Excuse me, Dr. Lyerly. You and I both said one of our resolutions was going to be to do more TikTok videos. So
I didn't say it was a resolution, but I do resolve to do more TikTok videos.
I believe we call that a resolution, but we'll let that go. But I wanted you on here. I brought you in early because Mr. Mathers is here as well. And Mr. Mathers knows that on Friday, the three of us talked about what? When do you put your Christmas decorations away, Mr. Mathers?
When Scott Hansen goes away for the year, Christmas decorations go away for the year.
When you put away Scott Hansen from the NFL Network's Red Zone. And what did I say on Friday?
That you were going to clip
Friday.
it?
I said, yes, please clip this, post it. And within about 3 hours or so, I go back and look at it, and there it is. Scott Hansen liked your post. So I said, let's make Luke Mathers famous with Scott Hansen, and Scott Hansen now knows who Luke Mathers is.
Kelsey was very, very jealous.
Was she really?
Yeah, she was like, that's pretty cool.
That is awesome. See, isn't it the little things, you know?
She doesn't care about anything else I do on the radio, but she was like, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And now this will forever be a tradition in the Mathers household.
Oh yeah, there's no leaving it now. No matter what. Yep. Just remember to record it next year. Maybe give a little greeting to Scott and send it their way. They just might put it on. Others are going to look at that, and go, oh, hey, that's a good idea. That's our new tradition too. You never know the impact you have on folks.
There we go. You never know.
Nope. Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, Dr. Lyerly is in her green and gold attire, as she always is on Mondays, to show her Packer support. So we'll get back into that victory against the Cowboys and the challenge of heading to San Francisco next, right after this. You're Up North.
I'll be right back.
Okay.
We haven't even talked about the caucuses yet.
No, I'm just making note of everything we have to hit in the next 20 minutes. Oh, you're back.
I
am. Both of you are back. Okay, from
perfect.
beautiful Hibbing, yes. Are you in Hibbing?
No.
Or twice if you're in Milwaukee. Oh, okay.
I'm out on the prairie. I'm in Montevideo.
Oh, Montevideo. Okay, gotcha.
It's Iowa cold out here too.
Yeah. Okay. Would you call yourself on the plains or on the prairies?
I would say the prairie. I mean,
think
it
you're
is
in the
like
prairie,
this is the South Dakota part of Minnesota.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Whoops.
Do they have Packer bars there still?
This is a very religious part of the country. So the bars that they have aren't really the kind of bars that you would go to to watch a game. So I watched it alone in my room last night.
Aw.
I was texting with people though, so that was fun.
Oh, good.
Mm-hmm.
Too religious for Packer bars? God's a Packers fan. Come on.
Well, not in southwestern Minnesota. He's
Yeah, it is funny. I mean, when you are in a place that is very, very conservative, they don't have any fewer of the same kind of vices that you have in other places. Like, there are bars, they're just like they're creepy and you wouldn't want to go there.
creepy bars. Ooh.
Yeah. Not so good.
That's okay. I got a real creepy vibe from your post yesterday. So I believe you.
Yeah. Oh, that was
Definitely.
fun.
Are you good hanging around, or do you have to hit the road at some point here?
I'm here till tomorrow.
Okay. Alrighty.
I get my letter jacket tomorrow. I get fitted for my letter jacket tomorrow.
Letter
you.
jacket.
Did I not tell you the story?
No. Oh, God.
I'm finally
right,
getting my letter jacket 30 years later.
All right. That's on the list here. All right. Very good.
Mm-hmm.
I actually got to go to the speed limit again on 94. It's great. Friday heading home, not fun.
You were going the speed limit anyway. Remember, you were zipping around semis and.
Yep.
No. That morning I went like 55.
Did you guys see any of the videos from that pileup in Wyoming?
No.
Oh my goodness. What's the thing? Everybody's got a cell phone now. So you saw this pileup happening from all these different angles, and you're just looking at these cars going, slow down, and they don't see anything till it's too late, because they're driving like crazy in a snowstorm.
25 seconds till we're back.
Okay.
As long as you don't have to turn or brake, you're in great shape.
Yeah, right. Okay.
I'm on fire. Fireball.
Oh no, it's time for a Monday morning dance party here on Up North News Radio. 6:34, and coming up a little later in our musical memories and history lesson, we'll tell you all about the birthday for Armando Christian Perez, or Pitbull, as it may be.
I did not know that.
Yeah, see, we've already hit you with some trivia for this morning. So,
early.
Even if we weren't talking about the temperatures, which are, below zero pretty much everywhere in Wisconsin, and wind chills in the minus 20 range right now, if we weren't talking about the cold, we'd be talking about that snowstorm that hit us on Friday. Now, again, up here in the northwestern part of the state, we only got about 2 inches, by and large, but boy, did some places get walloped. Now, Kristen, you're too far north to have gotten much. Luke, you weren't quite in the blizzard zone, but you weren't that far away from it. What did things look like in beautiful Sun Prairie?
When I was leaving Waukesha, because after producing you on Friday morning, I had the amazing opportunity to again work with Jane Matinair for Matinair on Air, and got off the production board just at noon. And right as I was packing up to head home, Waukesha County said, we have a state of emergency, so please do not leave and go out on the roads unless you absolutely have to. And I was like, well, I'm not going to sleep in the studio all weekend. So I was like, I have to. and I headed out on 94. Took about double the time that it normally would have, but I made it home safe. A lot of cars very cautiously driving. There was a number of slowdowns because more often than not, the cars that were in the ditches were the semi was pulled off to the side several spots along 94. And it was some of the bigger cars like the trucks and the Jeep style ones that were off in a ditch.
10 feet tall and bulletproof, they
think that they can go a little bit faster than they probably should in conditions like that. So there's a number of slowdowns for officials, first responders that were helping take care of those individuals, but made it home safely and then got to grab the shovel and start clearing it all because we got a lot more than 2 inches, Pat. You are a lucky man if you only had 2 inches this weekend.
Yep. No, we definitely lucked out that way, and the snow blower was able to take care of it all. But again, our thanks to everybody, who operates those plows and tries to keep the roads safe and salted and sanded for us. But then, the cold came right behind us, and Kristen's out there on the prairies, out west right now. And do you have any idea what the temperature is out there?
-11, -33 wind chill.
-33, and you're not that far from Iowa, where the caucuses are going to be tonight.
That's exactly right. And that's the big news story, isn't it? It is Iowa cold where I am, but who knows who's going to show up for the caucuses today. In rural Iowa, it's going to be incredibly cold all day. I think this is record-setting weather on a day like today that so many people are watching so very closely.
And again, on days like this, it is all dependent on turnout. And I mean, it really, for all of the romanticism that surrounds the caucus, you understand why most people have moved on from that. Because again, on a night like tonight's going to be in Iowa, if you have to work, if you have young kids, if you are disabled, if you have any of these circumstances and you can't be at this specific place at this specific time, then you don't get a voice. You don't get a vote in how this works. It's why you see the eligibility for absentee balloting opening wider so that more people have a chance to participate in democracy rather than this essentially throwback when it was, all about small towns and everybody in a small town could get to one place at one time. So the results are always a little skewed out of Iowa. I mean, Rick Santorum didn't get to be president. Mike Huckabee didn't get to be president. Ted Cruz didn't get to be president. All winners of the Iowa caucus. And Donald Trump, Pete Buttigieg, again, didn't get to be president. Iowa's not a bellwether, and so tonight it will be, Trump because his supporters, and he is using language now that is downright apocalyptic. There are more people talking about Trump being chosen by God and Trump telling people you might die after you go to the caucus out in the cold, but do it. It'll be the right thing to do. He said, if you die tonight after going to the caucuses, the messianic tone that's being struck by him and his supporters is getting really, really concerning to me.
There was an article in the New York Times that addressed exactly this and how his followers who claim to be evangelicals have actually, many of them, fallen away from the true church. They are not even really connected to an actual church anymore. It is really Trump who has become their God and the person that they're following. And we see that in his followers and how loyal they are. And when you see them interviewed and, recognizing that every interview is just one interview, but they don't have a lot of answers about why they are so connected. There is just something that is just so deeply rooted in them. And that's how I think he continues to be able to maintain his control over this part of the party.
Oh yeah. It's rooted in, it's been described many ways, as white nationalism, white Christian nationalism, what have you. All I know is Iowa was used to be more moderate. It wasn't a blue state by any stretch of the imagination, but much like northern Wisconsin, was much more moderate. But over the years, and for a variety of reasons, and many of them counterintuitive to, why we go to church, those places have become really red in a way that is downright concerning when it comes to their willingness to go along with somebody who, frankly, the evangelical community would have laughed out of the room, a generation ago. And yet here he is continuing to make tracks toward the Republican nomination. And look, some of his supporters today, by the way, are going to either take one Martin Luther King Jr. quote out of context, or some will go a step further and criticize the man. There's an article over the weekend about how Charlie Kirk, one of these white supremacist Trump followers, his new tactic is to say, Martin Luther King actually wasn't a good person, and the Civil Rights Act wasn't a good thing. The kinds of things you could never say out loud before because they're so outrageous. And yet those kind of talking points, the people who are fighting DEI, the people who made up the controversy about CRT, the people who don't want to say the Civil War was caused by slavery, the people who did not mind that over the weekend a woman and 2 children drowned in the Rio Grande trying to cross the border, these folks are all okay with what Trump is selling. And that's going to be reinforced tonight, unfortunately. I'd love to say that there's going to be a surprise, but I don't see it coming.
Yeah, Charlie Kirk also wondered whether Taylor Swift had any eggs left in her ovaries. I mean, he just says whatever he can say to be sensational. But, 2 important things to keep in mind in Iowa. One, polling. Polling has been notoriously off over the last couple of cycles because they still are using landlines. So who picks up their landlines? I don't have a landline. Do you have a landline? So it'll be interesting to see whether the actual results match the polling. And also, Trump is very popular in rural parts of Iowa, and rural Iowa is going to be hardest hit by this bad weather. It is going to be really hard for especially older people, and that tends to be Trump's population, to get to the caucuses in this sub-freezing, horrible, ridiculous weather. So it'll be very interesting to see what the results end up being.
Look at this contrarian take from Dr. Lyerly. I mean, talk about political analysis over here. This is good stuff. You pay attention.
Nobody knows.
Nobody. Okay, that's the short part. Nobody knows. But see, if every political analyst just said that, we'd have a lot more dead air to fill. So we got to do it. Say on Friday, that was the deadline for new maps proposals to be submitted in the state Supreme Court case that's throwing out the current gerrymandered legislative maps. Tomorrow on the program, we will have Professor Sam Wong from the Princeton Gerrymandering Project. We had him on a few months ago to talk about the possibility of the Supreme Court throwing out these current maps, and now he has been looking at the proposals that were submitted late Friday as part of this case. I'm not going to say that I've looked at them in great detail at this point. I wonder, Kristen, if you've seen much for the coverage over the weekend and have any thoughts on the various maps that were submitted.
Yeah, I definitely looked at them, especially the maps in northeastern Wisconsin, where we are so grossly gerrymandered that of the 23 seats that are going to be on the ballot in the fall, only 2 are held by Democrats in this fairly purple area of the state. So we know that there is definitely room for change here. When you look at the maps, they very much reflect who they are coming from. So the Republican maps give a little bit. The Democratic maps are more evenly balanced. And when you look at them through the map tool, you can see the partisanship scores and other scores that help you determine really what the quality of the maps are. It will be exciting now that they are in the hands of the special masters. It'll be exciting to see what their analysis is and what they come back with on February 1st.
I was just really struck by the amount of projection going on in some Republican commentary circles. Like, oh, I can't believe that these maps that the Democrats submitted, they do X, Y, and Z. I'm just looking at going, pot kettle black, kids. This is everything that you have done for the past 12 years. And if the Democratic maps were taken just on their own, which they probably won't be, but I mean, that would be the personification of the phrase, chickens coming home to roost. But that's not what's going to happen. You've got these consultants who are going to weigh the maps and make their own recommendations. And again, one disclaimer, these are going to be fairer maps. But anybody that thinks that there's any kind of a map system out there that gives Democrats an overwhelming majority in the Assembly and Senate, you're living in a fantasy. This is a purple state. This isn't about a Democratic advantage. This is about letting voters have the competitive races they deserve because we are such a 50-50 state by and large.
The special masters, it's great to know who they are and what their job is and what they've done in other states as well. These are truly neutral parties. So we've got all this input that is obviously biased, but they're going to take this information and they are going to help us figure out what the next step is in our path forward. But let's not forget, we have not fixed the problem. The fundamental problem is that we don't have a great way of drawing maps. So once we get our maps settled and we get our new folks elected into the legislature, we're going to need to come up with something like the Iowa program to be able to draw fair maps going well into the future.
Yeah, it is. It always just reminds me of that time in the legislature when, Jim Sullivan and I said we wanted to put forward the Iowa nonpartisan redistricting model, and leadership said, nope, we're not going to go along with that, and how different things might have been otherwise. And frankly, what is happening right now in the state Supreme Court could have just as easily happened in the state Supreme Court back in 2011, except that the court was so dominated by conservative politicians wearing justices' robes that rather than bringing on a fair process, they, helped cement the amazingly rigged maps that we've been operating here for 12 years. So what's happening now, yes, it could happen every time where a state Supreme Court and some experts look for a fair map. We're well overdue to have that happen here. But Kristen, whenever it happens, then, you and a whole bunch of other people are going to be looking around the room and saying, okay, who is thinking about running? And let's get those folks plugged in. And things are going to move real fast come March, I'm sure.
I think they will. We've got a deep bench, though, because people, I think, for the first time have hope. For a long time, people felt like it just wasn't worth it because the maps were drawn in such a way that the deck was stacked so deeply against them. Why would you put yourself in a situation like this? But now that people are seeing that these districts are competitive, that representatives are actually going to have to earn their seats instead of just being handed their seats, that's amazing. That's exciting. That's exciting for all of us in Wisconsin, because this is our opportunity as citizens to get out, learn who the candidates are, and really feel like our votes do matter, because they do.
And this makes Mr. Mathers happy because new districts means new candidates, which means more content, more people to talk to and find out who's going to represent them in any given area. Luke's going to be like interview central over there, getting to know these candidates.
The engagement, the civic engagement that we're going to get over these new maps, I think is going to be really great for the radio network and really great for the state as a whole.
It is. All right. We'll pause here and get set for today's history lesson and some musical memories all coming up in just a bit. But first, a reminder, download that Civic Media app. It's free, and it lets you listen to Up North News Radio and all the shows across the Civic Media Radio Network all the time, wherever you are, on demand. We'll be back in a bit. You're Up North.
You want back-to-back Pitbull songs?
Whoa, that's a lot for a Monday morning.
Yeah, I think we should.
Okay.
From the back to the front to the top. You know me, I'm off in the cut. Always like a squirrel, looking for a nut. This is up for show. I'm not talking about luck. I'm not talking about love. I'm talking
We're just going to keep the dance party going here. Armando Perez, you know him as Pitbull, is 43 years old today.
Let's turn it up.
We need a disco ball effect, if not a disco ball itself, just to
Come on, Luke, help me out.
There we go. Where's Greg when you need it? Greg's back tomorrow, by the way. This is the anniversary of Super Bowl I. I wasn't ripping on your dancing. I'm saying Greg dances like nobody's watching. Let's put it that way. You know?
It felt like you were ripping on my dancing.
Okay, maybe just a little. Where was I?
About Super Bowl I all day long and about how glorious yesterday was. Can we just make that all of the content?
We could, because it was on this day in 1967 that the first Super Bowl was played in Los Angeles. It wasn't called that at the time, but in hindsight, Super Bowl I. The Packers beat the Kansas City Chiefs by a score of 35-10, and now here we are in the playoffs, potentially heading toward another Super Bowl. But again, however things turn out against the 49ers, that win against Dallas, we can talk about that all day.
If I hear another commentator saying the Packers are playing with house money, I will lose my mind.
Luke, what were we saying in the first half hour?
Don't listen to the first segment on playback then, please.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is the anniversary.
From every angle. But
yes.
But you guys are great.
Oh, thank you. See, it's
my dancing's terrible and my takes are awful. I might as well just go home right now.
Yeah, just shut the mic off, play the records. Right. This is the anniversary of the birth of Ronnie Van Zant from Leonard Skinner, born this day in 1948.
You don't owe me, but I wish you would let me ask one favor from you.
Ronnie was the front man for Leonard Skinner before that terrible plane crash in 1977. On this day in 1889, the Coca-Cola Company was incorporated in Atlanta, originally called the Pemberton Medicine Company, not Coca-Cola. But what was in Coca-Cola, as folks know by now, that Coca didn't stand for cocoa, it stood for cocaine. James Naismith published the rules of basketball on this day in 1892, so happy birthday, basketball. On this
you mean
day
our abortion law is older than basketball?
Oh my gosh, here we go. Yes, it is. It's older than basketball. We're going to get to that at 7:30 as well. That's all right. On this day in 1967, you can't do it justice, but if you listen to Mick Jagger and the Rolling Stones on the Ed Sullivan Show, you'll know that Ed Sullivan demanded that when they sing their song, "Let's Spend the Night Together," that they had to change it to "Let's Spend Some Time Together." And Mick Jagger gives an eye roll for the ages on TV as he sings the line. Pretty sure that's the only time he ever sang the line that way.
I think they did something similar with "Sympathy for the Devil" as well.
Probably.
Maybe.
Yeah, probably. Let's see. The Buckinghams recorded "Don't You Care" also on this day in 1967. We'll hear that a little bit later. On this day in 1977, we already played Leo Sayers' "You Make Me Feel Like Dancing" being the number one single. By the way, the number one album that same week in 1977 was the Eagles' "Hotel California," taking over the top spot from Stevie Wonder's "Songs in the Key of Life." The number one song this day in 1972 was by Don McLean.
This'll be the day that I die.
Now, this one we should.
This one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, we could just spin this record and go out for breakfast, especially since it runs 8 minutes and 36 seconds. If you bought the song as a 45 back originally in 72, you had to flip the 45 over to hear the second half of the song.
Really?
Yeah. And radio
That's
stations, radio stations couldn't, they had to play a very heavily edited version. Yeah. On this day in 2009, the Miracle on the Hudson, when Sully Sullenberg, what was it? John Sullenberg, the captain of U.S. Airways Flight 1549, ditched his plane safely in the Hudson River after the plane collided with birds shortly after takeoff. Kristen's waving her hand. Yes.
Yes, the co-pilot lived in Oregon, Wisconsin.
Really?
Yes, he was my neighbor.
Oh, wow. So
Yeah, isn't that crazy? You never heard about the co-pilot, the
no.
humble co-pilot from Wisconsin.
So what else can you tell us about this humble neighbor?
I can't remember his name off the top of my head. I didn't know him well,
Okay.
but he is from Wisconsin.
Mm-hmm. Very cool. Let's see. It is, of course, Martin Luther King Day, holiday, which will affect everything from mail delivery to some school districts to some other workplaces. So you might need to check in advance to see if something is open today or not. This is National Elementary School Teacher Day. This is National Hat Day. Just hat. Not funny hat, not stocking, just hat. It's National Hat Day. It's National Bagel Day. Yep. National Strawberry Ice Cream Day, which seems odd. You'd think that would be in the spring, when the berries are coming in. And this
Came
is
from
also
the Southern Hemisphere.
There you go. Must be it. And Wikipedia. It's Wikipedia Day. Wikipedia was started on this day in 2001. You know how I know that?
Wikipedia?
I went to Wikipedia. Yeah, exactly. And then this one from Roger, that I saw this over the weekend. Joyce Randolph passed away at the age of 99. You can be, excused for not knowing Joyce Randolph. I wouldn't have known her name. I just know she was Ed's wife, Trixie, on The Honeymooners. Didn't know there was anybody from The Honeymooners still with us, but Joyce Randolph. Trixie passed away at 99 over the weekend. Roger, thank you for the reminder about that. And I appreciate the reminder that it was National Bagel Day, because again, there's a lot of great things about living in, rural parts like rural Wisconsin. But boy, when you can get into a town that's got a really good bagel making operation, are you in for a treat? Not the bread donuts that get passed off as bagels in some places, but actual authentic bagels. I love it. I love a good bagel.
Pat's having a moment right now.
Yeah, I was just letting him. I was letting him sit in it.
Yeah, I was just watching them, that they were just going to leave me like Wilson the volleyball, just drifting off to sea. Like, let him go, drift off, and talk about his bagels. That's okay.
Co-pilot is Jeffrey Skiles. Skiles.
All right, good deal. Later in our next hour, we'll talk to Civic Media News Director Terry Bell, who's going to have 3 things you need to know to get the week started. Kristen Lyerly continues with us as well. And Brittney Merlot, Civic Media meteorologist, tells us about this deep freeze that we're in for the next several days. You're Up North. We'll be back.
They caught the last train for the coast. The day the music died, and they were singing bye bye Miss American Pie. Drove my Chevy to the levee, but the levee was dry.
All righty, let me get some 7 o'clock temperatures in here.
Sounds good.
Thanks for hanging around, Kristen. Is there any place you'd like to go next if I save the little conversation for 7:30?
Whatever you want. Lots of news happening right now.
I know. That's why I'm letting you spin the wheel of news here. Tell me if there's anything you want to make sure we start with.
Not really. Did you talk about when the Packers play next week?
Yeah, we did, but we're going to make sure to do that again off the top.
Did you catch Michael Irvin's take on the game yesterday?
Boo-hoo, boo-hoo, boo-hoo.
Did you
Or
see
did
it?
I sum it up right? I don't know.
He's mad. He's mad that when he came to Dallas, it was their obligation to maintain the legacy that had been built before them, and they couldn't do it this time. I mean, he's like spitting. He's so mad as he's shouting. Sad.
Oh, geez.
Mm-hmm.
I just saw the video of Stephen A. Smith, who does not like the Cowboys one bit. He took a video at halftime, and he was panning away from the screen towards his face, and he was just smiling the whole time. And then he just put just the one finger up to his mouth, like the shush motion, and then ended the video, and that was it. And it was pretty good. It was pretty good.
Oh my gosh, that was just so crazy. I'm like pacing in my hotel room, just like shouting at the TV. I could not shout at the TV. It was so unbelievable. I was not expecting. Nobody was expecting what we saw yesterday.
Yeah, I was setting up a new phone while also trying to watch the game, and it was just like on hold with the service provider trying to get the new number to become my old number so I could switch it over. And I'm just like watching. I'm like, yes, touchdown. Like I just kept muting myself while I was on this call because it took way longer than it needed to, and it was a good time.
My son was at the Exploratorium in Milwaukee, I think.
Mhm.
And there were shots. With every touchdown, there were shots.
7 free
not-
shots
He was
from the
not
bar.
sounding
All
good.
right.
Yeah. I was like, buddy, I hope you have a driver. Yes, we have a driver.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. He's of age. He's 24. And then he pointed out that
I wouldn't have
Jordan Love-
expected he was not. I would have assumed that he was of age.
And then he pointed out that Jordan Love is his age. And then I pointed out that Jordan Love had already accomplished so much more than he had accomplished.
That's
and
rough.
once again, yep, my Mom of the Year award, probably not going to happen. Already doomed in January.
Giannis is 9 months younger than I am, so it's like just a nice reminder that, yeah, my life sucks compared to Giannis. We
Yeah.
got 60 seconds until we're back.
Oh, man.
Man, you guys have more fun when I'm away. All I can hear through my headphones is laugh, laugh. Hey, Brittany.
Good morning.
Morning.
How are you guys?
Cold.
Oh.
40 seconds till
Yeah,
we're back.
could you fix this? You're the
Everybody
weather
else is
person,
at their
right?
own location. They haven't had to go outside yet.
Yep. I think it's fine. It's okay.
It's so cold here that the snow is blowing, and when it settles into drifts, the drifts are like styrofoam.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. Like you walk on top of them because they're so hard and cold.
Here we go.
All across Wisconsin from Civic Media, this is Up North News Radio. Now, live from our Lake Minnesota studio, here's the founding editor of Up North News, Pat Brightlow.
And friends, on this Monday, January 15th, 2024, 7:06 in the morning. It is 10 below zero right now up here on Lake Wissota. 9 below in Hayward, 10 below in Park Falls, -5 in Wausau, Green Bay 3 below, La Crosse -7, Wisconsin Rapids -4, 1 below in Oshkosh, down to 9 below in Madison and 9 below in Waukesha, where Luke Mathers is holding down the fort, spinning the dials and flipping the switches. And Kristen Lyerly is with us as well, Civic Media meteorologist Brittney Merlot is here, and it's tough to tell what to talk about first because we want to talk about how cold it is, but then you've got other people reminding us that it's a Victory Monday. Rob posts on Facebook, "Go Pack, go!"
Yes.
Roger posts about Jimmy Johnson's halftime rant. Apparently, was a thing of beauty. And Rob reports 6 below zero with a minus 22 wind chill wherever Rob is. Rob, tell us where you are next time. Yes,
Rob's in
Kristen.
Tigerton. Rob's in
Tigerton?
Tigerton. Yep, I know
Excellent.
Rob.
Okay.
And he knows 22 is my favorite number. So shout out.
What, are you saying Rob's making up wind chills just to make you happy over here?
I don't know, but it's ironic that it's 22 below with the wind chill right there.
There are a lot of wind chills in the minus 20s, and we will spend a lot of time savoring the Packers whooping the Dallas Cowboys in a bit. But Brittney is here. Those temperatures are that cold, and they're going to be here for a little while, Britt, aren't they?
Yes, they are. I mean, I wasn't yesterday too in Dallas. Was that the coldest home game that they've ever had? I think it was. It was 23 degrees there, and they're complaining.
Oh, sure. And
They showed people coming in from outside, and they were like, they looked like they had been traumatized by the cold.
They were traumatized in Kansas City. They're going to be traumatized in Buffalo, which had to postpone the game till this afternoon.
Seriously.
One of my favorite videos from yesterday was they took the crowd at Jerry World that was rushing into the stadium because of that cold. A Packers fan decided to put that in reverse and show it the Dallas fans leaving the game when it was like 40 to whatever it was to a lot of touchdowns to very few touchdowns. Whatever.
Yes.
I don't know at what point the video got posted, but it was pretty comical.
But yeah, it's. I mean, this is a cold dome that has a lot of stretch to it, and unfortunately, Brittney, I think it has some length to it as well. This is not a 1 or 2 day thing.
No, this is here to stay for basically the entire week. So right now we're in that wind chill advisory, of course. That lasts until noon. We are feeling anywhere from 20 to 30 below as you step outside this morning. So get the big mittens on. Actually, mittens are better than the gloves with your fingers are separated. Keep that in mind because you keep your fingers together, they all stay much warmer. So mittens are preferred. Obviously, cover your face, get a scarf, get some of those little face shields that you can pull up, anything, cover your ears because frostbite can occur within just 10 minutes in these situations. So 10 minutes rolls around pretty fast. Before you know it, that frostbite can stay there for months to years, and it hurts, and it's not worth it. And also, of course, make sure your kids are covered up. I don't know how many schools are still going on right now. I know Wisconsin's tough when it comes to the cold. That's why we have the frozen tundra. We know how to handle this, but just friendly reminders. And of course, if you are traveling out there this morning, have a winter emergency kit in your car. The most important thing, a sleeping bag probably, because if you get stranded, you're going to want to get in that and stay warm. Make sure your car has a full tank of gas through this entire week. Just want to make sure of that. But we're going to be stuck in this. We've got a wind chill advisory so it expires at noon because we're going to have highs below zero. Some of us might get to the single digits in the southern part of the state, but it's going to be feeling like a high of 15 below. That's the warmest we're going to get. Then tonight we drop to actually 10 below zero, actual temperatures, but the wind's still whipping at 20 to 25 miles per hour. It's going to feel again like 30 below. So another dangerous night tonight and through tomorrow morning. Now the winds will start to calm down a little bit as we go into middle of the week. Then our temperatures start to bump up by Wednesday and Thursday, where northern half of the state, you'll get above zero finally. And for the southern half of the state, maybe some double digits, but still feeling like zero. We don't really have a true warm up of 30s headed our way until Monday, next Monday. So we've got an entire week of this. So stay warm. I hope you guys, keep the cupboards open, get those pipes, the air from your house, warm them up. You don't want any pipes to burst. That's a big thing in these conditions as well.
Absolutely. Did you hear what happened to Anderson Cooper in Chicago the other day?
No.
From Anderson Cooper from CNN?
What do you do now?
He's not a sports fan.
Anderson Cooper, not a sports fan. Talked about having to fly into Chicago and realizing he didn't have a good hat. So he picked up a hat and he wore it. And, in part he said because he didn't want to be recognized.
He was in Wisconsin, and that's where he bought his hat, was in Wisconsin.
Okay, so he bought it in Wisconsin, but then he was in Chicago And people are like abusing him. People are like yelling at him and he can't figure out why. And one of the co-anchors on CNN, as he's telling the story, says, by any chance, did your hat look like this? And he puts on screen a Green Bay Packer logo. And he's like, yeah, that's what it is. And they're like, that's the Green Bay Packers. He's like, really?
Oops. Wrong city.
We found somebody who does not know that the Green Bay Packer logo is the Green Bay Packer logo, and it's one of the most watched cable news network hosts. That's funny.
Let's remember that we had just beaten the Bears too, so everything was very fresh and raw at that point.
Mm-hmm. So have your protective gear, yes, but also know your audience, know who's around you. Brittney, thank you so much. You have a great day.
You too. Stay warm, everybody.
All right. We'll talk again tomorrow. So the business at hand, just to make it official here, is that the Packers beat the Cowboys 48-32. Aaron Jones ran for 3 touchdowns. Jordan Love threw for 3 touchdowns. Darnell Savage returned an interception, 64 yards for a touchdown. The Packers handed the Cowboys their first home loss since 2022 in the opening week of the season. The Cowboys haven't reached an NFC championship game since the most recent of their Super Bowl wins, and that was 28 years ago. That's 28 years of playoff futility for Dallas. It's not a good morning in Texas right now. I can only imagine how
especially after the season that they had. I mean, they had such an incredible season with so many victories, and there was so much hope. And to have it dashed, not just dashed, but dashed like that.
Mm-hmm.
Although, and even the score does not even reflect what happened with the game. Like it was more than that.
It was such a blowout. Yes. And the news is even better for Wisconsin sports fans who may not have known that last night, the Bucks were in overtime against the Sacramento Kings, and Damian Lillard swished a 3-pointer at the buzzer in overtime to give the Bucks a stunning 143-142 win over Sacramento. And so let's see, the Bucks will now be at Cleveland on Wednesday night. Oh, that reminds me, back to the Packers for a minute. Their next game, it's now been determined, will be Saturday night against the San Francisco 49ers out on the West Coast. Saturday night, 7:15. I would assume, Mr. Mathers, the usual Civic Media radio stations will be carrying that game. That would be
a good assumption.
Okay, yeah. That would be on Radio from the Center, WRCO in Richland Center, WRJR Racine AM and FM, and 98Q Country in Park Falls. So if you're listening to one of those stations. I have a feeling
that I have not got a chance yet to touch base with our sports programming director, but I believe all 3 of those stations will be covering your green and gold this Saturday evening when they head to San Francisco to take on the 49ers.
All right. And Badger men's basketball, they beat Northwestern over the weekend. They will play tomorrow at Penn State. You can hear that game on locally grown radio in Wisconsin Rapids. News from the Center in Richland Center, Lake Air in Amory, WRJN in Racine for Badger men's basketball. A Badger hockey team, by the way, they had 1 win and 1 tie against Lindenwood over the weekend. They're ranked 3rd in the country, the Badger men. So are the Badger women, who swept St. Thomas over the weekend. So, I mean, there's just no getting around it. It was a good sports weekend. Unfortunately, Kristen, you couldn't enjoy it except in a hotel room, right? Because you were in hostile territory, to put it mildly.
Yeah, hostile and subdued territory, but I did enjoy it because I yelled at the TV in my room all by myself, and I was texting with people. You're never alone. I knew that there were other people watching, so we were kind of like text watching it together.
Was hotel management ever concerned? Were they like, oh, we need to go send a staffer up to check on this lady up in whatever room?
Loud noises coming from the room. Yeah, what kind of a party is going in there? A party of 1.
I can't help it too. Like I would be yelling at the TV, thinking to myself, somebody's going to come in here thinking that there's something bad happening, but nobody showed up, so everything was fine.
Okay, that's good. That's good.
It just like comes out of me, it's spontaneous.
Oh yeah, like I am the same way. Where my wife, my friends, they all know that when they watch a sports game with me, what to expect at this point. Like it's nothing new. Like everybody is well aware that I am the loud cheerer, even though nobody involved in the sport can hear me at that time. At that point, but I would believe that I would have needed probably a wellness check from the hotel myself if I was in your shoes, because somebody would have undoubtedly came knocking on the door just to see if I was all right.
See, and
there may have been some expletives too.
Maybe if I'm watching at home, I'm not that terribly loud. I get equally pumped up, but not as loud. And part of the reason I like to be at the local watering hole with friends and neighbors is that we're all being loud. You know, during that interception, I'm surprised we all screamed to the point where I'm surprised we still have a voice left. And that's just the best way to go about doing it. Hey, one more. Yes.
We are those people at the bar, Luke and I, who create that loudness so that you can join in. We're here for you.
We are your cover. We are your cover.
Yeah, I would not have been loud without you guys. Totally. Yeah, it's all you. Hey, I hope you all can feel it, especially on a 10 below morning. I hope you can feel the day's getting a little bit longer here. Can you feel the warmth of all the extra sunshine? No, you can't? Okay, well, just so you know that statistically, the latest sunrise was back in mid-December there at 7:43. It's now coming up at 7:39. So minute by minute, days are getting a little bit longer. We're at 8 hours and 46 minutes of daylight, but by the end of the week, it's going to be 9 hours of daylight. So we've got that going for us. I'm trying anything to keep you guys warm on a morning like this. Again, if you're heading out for any reason whatsoever, bundle up really good. When we come back, more with Dr. Kristen Larley and Luke Mathers, and you with your input on Facebook or by phone at 1-844-967-2789. Back in a bit. You're Up North.
Let's also remember that it is hat day.
I forgot my Bucks hat because somebody makes fun of me when I wear my Bucks hat, so therefore I don't wear it anymore.
Yeah. Oh. What a fair weather fan.
I forgot to wear it. Yeah, I forgot to wear it. It's difficult getting dressed in the dark when I have to get dressed as early as I do just to make sure that I try to make sure not to wake up Kelsey.
Aw.
That's sweet.
I was unsuccessful though because the dog kicked her because he was taking over my spot. So I was not successful this morning. But I blame that mostly on the dog.
Dogs.
And it's your last morning. For now anyway.
For now. But I'll wake up at 4:15 tomorrow, even though I don't need to.
I think it's a glorious morning. It's really cold. And the Packers won. And those things go hand in hand against the Cowboys. I'm feeling like...
Why don't you tell me instead of telling lies and making me cry, can't you see?
This, of course, would be the Buckinghams, and they recorded this song, Don't You Care, on this day back in 1967. One newsy issue I wanted to bring up just because it's so blatant, looking at some of the headlines, and you've got the new Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, saying that Congress, he said over the weekend, Congress cannot solve the border problem until Trump is elected or some other Republican is back in the White House. Now, again, these are the people claiming the borders are open. Oh, Biden's borders, they're wide open. But you're now saying, well, we can't do anything until we have a new president in. So I guess, Kristen, if they're saying the borders are open, that's now on the Republicans in Congress, right? Because they don't want to do anything. You don't want to do anything unless you can. Yeah.
They don't want to do anything because they know that this is an issue that really bothers people and gets people to vote for them. So they have no incentive to try to fix this problem. This is a fixable problem. there are things that we can do to make this better. I don't know if you saw the article that Ruth Conniff did in the Wisconsin Examiner last week about whitewater and all of these folks from, I think, Nicaragua who are trying to integrate within the community. We need them there. They are serving a purpose in that community and they are trying to make a difference, but they need a place to live. They need to be able to get to work. They need driver's licenses. There are things that we can do both on a state level and a federal level to solve this problem, but they won't do it because they like the divisiveness because it serves their political purpose.
That's right. Both the Wisconsin Examiner and the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel have done some really good stories on whitewater because you had initially politicians there using whitewater as an excuse to say, we need to shut down the borders and this is a crisis, this is a danger. And folks in whitewater saying, don't use us for your political pawns. Yes, we're concerned, but we're concerned because we want to provide adequate services, not because we want people, drowned or shot at the border or something like that. People want to be welcoming communities. They would just like it to be part of a process, an orderly process. And that's what's not happening right now as Republicans are blocking everything.
Yeah, the mayor of Denver has been really eloquent on this issue. He's received a lot of migrants from Texas, I believe, and he's just asking for communication, coordination. They are happy to have these folks come, but they can't just show up on these freezing cold days where there's no place for them to go. So a little bit of coordination would go a long way. But again, there's no incentive for Mike Johnson and the Republicans because then they can't use it as a wedge issue.
Right. And that's where, again, they, like you just said, this could be solved immediately if they would actually negotiate. But it's very reminiscent of the times that the state legislative Republicans, didn't want to do anything with the state surplus, the record surplus, because they were hoping Tim Michels would win and they could do whatever they wanted with it then, rather than creating, win-win situations for everybody.
I have a question about the surplus. This is what doesn't make sense to me. Pat, you're a former legislator. When you have a surplus, that's like extra one-time money, right?
Yes.
So
by and large,
why would
yes.
you cut taxes with extra one-time money? Because cutting taxes is like a sustainable thing that's going to last over a long period of time. Wouldn't it be smarter to use that one-time money to do one-time things like fix roads and bridges and all of those projects that are backlogged?
Well, and that's part of what we've been saying about creating a win-win here is that rather than instituting permanent tax cuts, which should be a separate issue when you're talking about a one-time, budget surplus, what you could do is you could have a tax credit for that year, a very generous tax credit for that year, and there would still be plenty left over for education and transportation and helping farmers and helping the rural economy and the urban economy. It's all there. The win-win possibilities are enormous. But if your philosophy now is we have to have everything or nothing, then they end up blocking it. And Republicans here are still sitting on billions of dollars that should be invested in Wisconsin that they're not because they want to play politics with it. So
the amazing thing is it's just this secret plan that we guarantee we'll be able to enact it again, but just give us a Republican president. It's like Donald Trump when he first ran. I know how to fix healthcare. I've got a magical healthcare plan. Elect me president and I'll solve healthcare. And then he became president and there was no solve to healthcare. And he admitted, well, we just found out that healthcare is a difficult thing.
Yeah. Yep. And of course, infrastructure too. It was always infrastructure week.
It was always
infrastructure week is coming. And Joe Biden turned it into an infrastructure decade, actually made it happen because some people want to do the work as opposed to just talking about this issue and extending it out. So again, Congress is back in town. We're facing the potential for a government shutdown by the end of this week. Some people want to roll a border deal into it. Some people don't. And if anybody wants to go over to my TikTok account, just look up Pat Kreitlow. You'll see the video I made about Republicans saying they want a border deal, but they actually don't want a border deal. So, and somehow or another, that puppy has gone viral here. So I'm glad some folks did enjoy it. Kristen, you're
That's
enjoying.
Kind of a big deal these days, huh?
I guess. You make one good video and suddenly you feel like, well, now I got to make another. Okay, fine. You have much more weighty things to deal with, Kristen. You're getting fitted for a leather jacket.
Yes.
Are you
I
going
am.
back to school or something? Or
No, when I was in college, I was the mascot and I was part
yes.
of the marching band. And at that point, the athletic department decided that mascots were actually pretty useful. So they took it over. And then I was part of the athletic department, but I didn't get a letter. But all of the mascots after me got letters. So I called the athletic department and said, "Hey, I didn't get a letter." And they said, "Oh, why don't you come in and get fitted for your letter jacket?" So I'm doing that tomorrow. And I'm so excited.
I can't even process that because it's been so many decades since I tried to earn a letter in something. You're earning a letter. Like I wouldn't even know what to do anymore to earn a letter for a letter jacket.
I'm going to wear it forever. I'm going to sleep in it. I'm so excited about it.
So for a few years, you basically stepped into, an old unwashed gym sock, a very large gym sock, put a gopher head on your hat, cavorted around, and now you're going to get the letter jacket that goes with it.
Yeah,
That's
it seems
amazing.
like it's like an investment that I made a long, long time ago, and now I'm cashing out on it unexpectedly. So it is like, for so many reasons, this is just a really joyful thing for me.
Here's the thing that I really like about hearing that, though, is there are so many people from Wisconsin who went to, say, Minnesota. Like one of my daughters went to the University of Minnesota. There's plenty of Minnesota folks that have come into Wisconsin, me being one of them, moving here as a college student. And for all of the, all the back and forth, all the rivalry talk and everything else, it's just a reminder that in terms of an upper Midwest feel, like we're all neighbors. Yeah, we have our little rivalries here and there, but I like that regular folks, if you will, they're just like, yeah, we go to Minnesota. Yeah, we go to Wisconsin, as the case may be. And, you're kind of like the brand ambassador for détente between the two states. So as Roger writes on Facebook, letter jackets rock. So you wear that jacket, you fly that flag over there, you very Wisconsin-based gopher.
Well, you're a very native Minnesotan now,
Badger,
truly
yeah.
deeply Badger. Yeah,
Yes.
like we've got some,
We're all just being
got
good
some
and neighborly. Yes. All right. We'll take a pause, and then Kristen's going to tell us a bit more about the folks that she's meeting out there on the prairie when we come back. You're Up North.
Can't you see you're hurting me? Don't you care? Don't you care?
Did I tell you that one of my mentors, her uncle was with the Buckinghams? They're out of Chicago.
Yes, that's right. You did. Yeah, you mentioned that.
She has great stories about how when she was young, she would hang out backstage at the Buckinghams concerts.
Too fun.
It wasn't all, 50s sweet and clean.
No.
Stuff.
No, it was not. All right. Oops. I didn't pick any music for 7:34, so Luke is going to surprise us.
Pat, you are really getting clever with your TikToks. I feel like this is a new thing for you. This is like you're coming into your own here.
Well, I've had that thing I got at South, that hoodie, that flag hoodie. I've had that since I got back, and ever since I got back, I'm like trying to think of the right way to have that character do something. And finally, I'm like, stop making it try to do something. Just say what the Republican talking points are, and respond to them.
Do you have a song request for this segment?
No,
Sorry
we
to
kind
interrupt.
of left it up to you over here. So
To me, Dr.
Yeah.
Lyerly, do you have anything? I think you
What are
really
we going
left
to be
it up to
talking
me.
about?
I have no idea.
well, we're doing your abortionist thing next. So it's something about how about war and why can't we be friends? Because otherwise it's back to Pitbull.
Yeah, that's good.
Or
I like
Leonard
that.
Skinner. You know.
Yeah.
So you got 3 different options there.
Yeah, I like war. That's good.
War. Okay.
Why can't we be
Why
friends?
can't we be friends? I feel like maybe this TikTok thing is a little addictive.
Yes.
2 minutes till we're back.
Yes, I've already started my next one, and it is the thing that I hear most from the Courier National team is, why aren't you doing more videos? You should do more videos. And I'm always like, because there's so many other things to do every day. And they're like, please carve out more time to do videos. So that's my New Year's thing.
Pat, were you a theater kid?
No, way too shy, which nobody believes. But, like everything else, it's like once I get going, it's like I can do it, but it's taking that first step.
Mm-hmm.
It's very, very hard.
So no singing.
No, and the funny thing is, I always think about how much I would have loved to have sung. My steering wheel thinks I'm an amazing singer, but nobody else.
That's not what it told me.
Yeah, what it said now is says, hey, maybe you used to be, but you don't have the range you used to.
Luke, are you a car singer too?
Oh yeah, of course, but not in front of other people.
What about when you're passing someone?
Oh, I don't care. They can.
Oh, then
they
I
can
become a
jam it out.
ventriloquist. My lips don't move. I'm still singing.
40 seconds till we're back.
Yep.
I think you got to own it. If you're singing, just sing. Sing more.
So easy.
Sing
for you to
bigger.
say. All right, here we go. We're back live from Lake Wissota, across the Civic Media Radio Network. Packers stunned the Dallas Cowboys 48-32 to advance in the NFL playoffs. Their next game, in case you hadn't heard yet, will be Saturday night in San Francisco to take on the number 1 seed, the 49ers. That's, again, a Saturday night game. 7:15 is kickoff against the 49ers. Luke Mathers is here. Dr. Lyerly is here. And we were thinking of the song by War, Why Can't We Be Friends, just based on a Twitter thread that you put up yesterday, and you probably put on other social media too, but that's where I saw it, Kristen. And I'm just going to, actually, no, I'm just going to let you take it from here. It was one conversation, but a lot of people have responded to it or connected with a lot of people. Tell us about that conversation that you had over the weekend that somebody else instigated for you.
Well, I love to have difficult conversations because I think that is something that we are not doing well right now. And it is not fostering any sort of understanding. We're all going to our corners and just our beliefs are being reinforced by people who believe the same things that we do. So when I'm working out in small towns, I often will go to coffee shops or breweries or whatever and have conversations with folks. And I was talking with someone who's become a friend of mine, and we were talking about reproductive rights and abortion. And as I left the coffee shop, a woman who was sitting nearby stopped me and said, "Are you an abortionist?" And she had this funny look on her face. And just by using that terminology, I knew where she was coming from. And so I explained to her that, no, I was an OBGYN doctor, but I did provide comprehensive care for women, including abortion. And she then needed to tell me that I was a bad person. How could I do that? She went just really on, and she wanted to engage in this conversation. And I stood there and listened to her because I hear this even in with my patients who I'm sitting in a room with trying to help them solve their problems. These are complicated issues that are really deep seated, and we have, lots of feelings and experience that go into the way we feel about this. So as she was explaining her perspective to me, and I was attempting to just to participate in the conversation, she kind of let it slip that she too had an unplanned pregnancy. So she knew what was happening. And this is a woman who probably had her unplanned pregnancy, 5 or 6 decades ago. It was probably a long, long time ago. So it was a hard conversation, but it went on for 5 or 10 minutes. And I left wondering how she felt going home. I know how I felt, like I do when I talk to any of my patients. But the following day, I went back and talked with her friend, and he explained to me, this is a small town, everybody knows everybody. He explained to me that she had actually experienced some sort of a fetal death, and she wasn't given any options back in the day. So she was forced to carry her dead baby until she delivered it naturally. And everyone in town knew. And the way that she had approached that conversation, it was very clear that she had so many unresolved feelings, so much anger and so much conflict. And, I put it on Twitter because I thought it's important for people to know that how these deeply held beliefs, how these really conflicting things that happen to us affect us, not just now, but for the rest of our lives. And that was exactly what we saw in the comments. People sharing their personal stories, people sharing stories of things that had happened in their families, people sharing lots of different perspectives. I also put it on Threads where it was a much healthier conversation. On Twitter, it ends up being kind of polarizing, but on Threads, it ended up being just really kind of a lovely conversation about the complexity of these issues and why ultimately our reproductive choices and all of our healthcare choices really need to be made by us as individuals.
But instead, we are in a society now where everything appears to be weaponized. Even the way this whole conversation started was with a term designed to be weaponized, abortionist. Mm-hmm. That's not, I don't want to say there's no such thing, but it is a gross characterization, an unfair characterization of what is a much more well-rounded field of healthcare, of comprehensive reproductive healthcare. Mm-hmm. But the word itself is meant to hurt.
It is, but I think a lot of people, when they come into these conversations, they have only seen that one side. They've only been fed all of those toxic words. That is their vernacular. That is what they have to use. And that's why I had to stay in that conversation, and I had to allow her to engage with me, and I had to be compassionate and thoughtful and just recognize that there was so much more than anger coming from her.
It's because the whole reason that we launched Up North News, the whole reason that Civic Media got launched was to bring these voices and bring this perspective to places, yes, predominantly rural, but to all kinds of places where they haven't had safe spaces for some of these difficult conversations. And they've only been spoon-fed one point of view, which often is either exaggerated or misinterprets or downright fibs about the actual facts of an issue. You have to have these conversations. Mostly I have them on the radio. You often have to have them in person, but they're very essential.
I have them in person all the time with my patients, and my patients make decisions that I wouldn't make for myself sometimes. And my patients come to the table with different problems, different experiences, different levels of support in their lives. And that's why I can't make decisions. When my patients say, what would you do in this situation? I can't answer that question because what I would do in most cases might be different than what they would do because my life is different.
Right.
So
and I've heard for decades. I've heard for decades when Sherry is on the phone with patients, I can tell they asked it because she'll come back with, I can't tell you that. I can't I can't make that decision for you. I can only lay out all of the factors. But here's the thing, Kristen, it wasn't that long ago that women weren't given all of this information to make a decision for themselves. Women have really only had this amount of control over their bodies for about the past 60 years. For all of human history before that, not so much.
Mm-hmm. It's true. And it depends too on where you live. So it may be legal, it may be generally available, but if you live in a pocket where maybe you have a Catholic hospital, you are not going to get birth control options at that Catholic hospital. So if that's the only option for you and you are going in for a cesarean and you want your tubes tied, you're not going to get it because the Catholic hospital won't allow that to happen. So it really depends very much on where you live and what kind of access you have personally in your region. And that doesn't mean that you don't have the same kinds of problems that other people have. I mean, 1 in 4 women in this country will have an abortion in her lifetime. Those are women from rural areas and cities, but they don't all have the same level of access to the care that they need.
As I was looking at the conversation both on Twitter and on Threads, and having the same impression of the platforms that you did, one of the discussion topics was to basically challenge that woman who wanted to label you as an abortionist. They wanted to challenge her, if they would have been there, to say, well, what have you done to this? Have you been a foster parent? For somebody that might have had unplanned pregnancy? Where are you in providing, say, comprehensive sex education to young people? If you're against that, then really what else are you doing other than name calling? And I'm not saying this to shame her, but to, again, bring up the larger point that rather than simply being against abortion no matter what are you then offering for all of these women and girls going through these kinds of circumstances?
I think for people who have had these kinds of experiences, the first thing that they have to deal with is their selves, their own trauma, their own experience. And people deal with that in so many different ways. And some people really hold it so very closely that they can't take it to that other level. They can't sublimate so that they can adopt a foster child and they can help get education out there and they can maybe run for office so that they can make a difference. That is just not in their wheelhouse. But I think we can all support each other and we can all listen to each other and hear each other. That's one thing that every single one of us can do, whether we're talking about reproductive care or cancer care. It doesn't matter. We all have challenges in our lives, and to just truly be there for each other as human beings, as neighbors, as family members who love each other, we can all do that.
I think to me, that's one of the more difficult parts to process, is that some people have such a knee-jerk reaction until it happens to them or it happens to somebody close to them, whether it's something related to abortion or something related to, LGBTQ issues or race or whatever the case may be. Is why does it always have to be when there's only 1 degree of separation or maybe 2 for you to more fully appreciate, what people are dealing with? And let's try to have that empathy for all a little more often and not just when it's selfishly right on your doorstep.
Yeah, because you don't know what someone else's experience is. And when I was having this conversation with her 2 days prior, I had spoken to a group of high school girls, at-risk high school women, one of whom was already a mother, and many of who stayed afterwards to ask me questions that I would have never expected 15, 16-year-olds to ask. Questions about sex toys, questions about what to do in certain situations that I, as an adult, wouldn't see myself in, but that was their real life experience. And I was so grateful that they were asking me so that I could help give them good solutions, but also so that I could help understand where they were coming from and continue to remain non-judgmental, objective, and helpful for them so that they could navigate their own complicated lives.
Well, it was put so well by somebody on social media who put it this way. Republicans will hand a 6-year-old a gun. They will force a 10-year-old to carry her rapist baby to term. They'll allow a grown man to marry an 11-year-old, and they'll send a 12-year-old to work in a meatpacking plant, but they won't give a hungry child a free lunch or a safe school for that matter. And it just seems, again, there are such misplaced priorities when it comes to adolescent and teenage girls and young women and to boys and to anybody at risk in all of these many issues where what they need is information, but we're banning books. What we need is information, but we're putting in gag orders. What we need is information, but we're letting, in some cases, abusive or uninformed parents have a monopoly on the decision-making process. We're not doing right by our society through our children in that way.
And all the things that you just mentioned are not hyperbolic. So
No.
if you listen to folks from the other side, they are saying hyperbolic things like, Democrats want to offer abortion up until the time of birth and sometimes after. That doesn't happen. They're
It's not a
saying
thing.
that to get you riled up. But everything Pat just said is true. They are not protecting us. They are not trying to solve problems. They're just stoking this culture war to get us on one side or the other so that they can continue to perpetuate their power. And it's not serving us. And the only way to combat this is to actually have conversations with each other and to try to figure out where the truth is. And not just the truth at the presidency, at the top, but at your school board level, in your local municipality. All of those elections that are coming up in the spring, those elections really matter at home, where all of that local stuff really is affecting you and your family.
And it really is getting to that ridiculous point. It's not hyperbolic to note that some school districts are now removing dictionaries because they have words in them for, like, genitalia or any kind of information that way. They're trying to create this vacuum that only, some people who may not be very well informed will fill. And it's not right. It's not the right thing to do. We're not doing right by our kids or by our country. Kristen, thank you for having that and all the difficult conversations. And then we'll talk. You're going to be back Thursday, I trust.
Yes, I will.
We'd like that very much. All right. Well, you take care out there and have a great start to the week.
Sounds great. You too, babe.
Thanks for playing with us. All right. When we come back, Civic Media News Director Terry Bell with 3 things you need to know to start the week. This is Up North News Radio, live from Lake Wissota, across the Civic Media Radio Network. I love that song.
Happy Monday!
Happy Monday! Thank you.
Later.
You're the
by
best.
the way, we're having
Yes.
Sarah Kieski
Okay.
for
Yes,
Women
I saw
Win
that.
Wisconsin on Thursday. She has not done much media in the past, but she's just delightful, and I think we're going to have a great conversation.
Okay. Looking forward to it.
Yeah. Hi,
Okay.
Terry.
Oh, hello.
Hi, Terry.
Hi.
How are we doing?
Excellent. How are you?
Oh, it's a beautiful day. You know that. It's a beautiful day.
I just kept watching the temperature on my dashboard drop as the drive got further and further. It was not fun.
No.
Are my plants frozen next to the window? Can you see them? Are they still alive?
I can see them good. The windows are
Frosty.
good and- no, actually, it's this is a damn solid building.
All right. 10
Yeah.
seconds till we're back.
They look good.
Here now is Civic Media News Director Terry Bell. How are you, Terry?
Hey, Pat. Good morning. Thawing out, but good.
Thawing out. That's a good way to put it. But you two kind of have that walking on a cloud look about you, as every Packer fan does.
Oh boy, was that a fun game!
Oh,
and
my
it's
goodness.
a cliche, but that score was not as close as it looked.
No, it's not. I mean, there was times near the end where they were like, well, if they can score 3 touchdowns and get the 2-point conversion on all 3 of them and retrieve the onside kick, there's a chance. And I'm thinking about these announcers going, you are trying so hard to keep Dallas in this game, but it's not going to work that way.
Oh, no, but I will say this. I mean, there's been a lot of criticism of the defense all year, and rightly
Yes.
so. But, even in a playoff win, the other team hung a lot of points on us. And that's something that I'm sure San Francisco is looking at to see that they can exploit.
Oh, yeah. I mean, again, well, Kristen's not here, Luke, so we can go ahead and use the expression. We're playing with house money over here.
Yep.
Okay. The expectations are such that, look, we'll prepare as best we can, but it's a young offense. It's a young defense. Everything about it says, look, prepare your best, but don't, just be happy with what you can accomplish. And we're very happy with what they could accomplish against a team that hadn't lost at home in over a year.
They've already exceeded all the expectations, I think, for the year. Jordan Love is proving himself to be a legitimate NFL quarterback. And January is always a lot shorter when the Packers go deep in the playoffs.
I know. It feels so good. 3 things you need to know to start the week. You got to start with the other big story today, and that, of course, is the weather, from the blizzard conditions in parts of Wisconsin on Friday to the deep freeze we're in now. It's a character builder.
Boy, oh boy. And, and not just for everybody had it bad off, but in Milwaukee and Waukesha counties in particular, 72,000 homes and businesses lost their power at some point or another during the height of the storm and then the bitter cold. So, oh my goodness, most of, not all of that should be back up by at some point today. But we had about close to 14 inches of snow in Sturgeon Bay. And this weather is going to stick around for another couple of days. The bitter cold, anyway. The snowfall has passed, fortunately.
I will say I'm very lucky in that, again, we only had like 2-3 inches up here, and it was the kind where, for having a snowblower, there's sometimes when it's like super wet and heavy, or other factors. Maybe there's a icy crust on the driveway and it's very uneven. I have to say how happy I was that I got one of those rare times where if you have a snowblower and it's like a knife through butter. It was just the right amount of snow, a little bit less, and you wouldn't have brought it out. You'd want to shovel that, but it was enough that you had to use the snowblower, but that it worked perfectly. The wind wasn't putting it all back in your face or anything like that. So yeah, again, we were really lucky up here, and hopefully folks in other parts of the state are able to dig out and stay warm over the course of the week here.
Absolutely.
And part of what folks are doing who are staying in today is they're mulling over some maps. And I will say that again, tomorrow we will have Professor Sam Wong from the Princeton Gerrymandering Institute. He was on a few months back to talk about the maps in Wisconsin. And now he, like many other people, are looking at the newly proposed maps that were all filed late Friday, Terry.
That's right. And a lot of these developments seem to happen late on Friday. But that was the Supreme Court's deadline for anyone who had an opinion, some skin in this game, to submit their proposed maps. And they were brought in by everybody from the governor to lawmakers on both sides of the aisle, college professors, and other people who are interested in public policy. What happens now is that 2 experts hired by the Supreme Court will take a look for the rest of the month, I believe, at these. And by March 15th, we should have in place the maps that will be in effect for the fall elections. So,
and I think it's worth noting that they will be in place. There is no such thing as a perfect map. No matter how it's drawn, somebody's going to take issue with a line here or there. Certainly Republicans were doing that over the weekend with some of the maps that were submitted by Democrats. Republicans, of course, went crazy with their maps in 2011 in terms of breaking up districts and pitting incumbents against one another. It's all part of the process. So nobody should expect perfection, and nobody should expect that these are going to be like maps where Democrats win a majority. The way the population is broken down in this state is almost any set of maps is going to have a net majority for Republican legislative districts. The point isn't about control. The point is about competition, having more competitive seats, Terry.
That's well said, not only for the candidates themselves, but for the bills that get some traction in the legislature. There's some of these some ideas, such as recreational marijuana and a lot of other popular ideas, gun control and school funding. They'll get further along in the process if, presumably, there's a more districts are more even-handed, and lawmakers have to appeal to more than just their own bases.
Right now, the maps are written in a way that extremism is rewarded because you don't want to be subjected to a primary coming from your right flank, or left flank if it were done the other way. People, by and large, are somewhere in the middle, and they want their legislative reps to behave accordingly and look for ways to work together, not look for ways to be even more extreme, so that they can continue to hold on to their seats. Last but not least, of course, it is that particular Monday in January where it's time to talk about the Iowa caucus, and the cold weather is going to play a role, I'm sure.
And that's been much of the talk and the speculation as to how this weather is going to affect turnout. Caucuses work much differently than any other kind of election. People gather in designated places and vote in groups. So it's definitely an old style town hall kind of setting. But how many people will turn out, especially if in the polls say Donald Trump's way ahead? How many of Donald Trump's supporters might stay home if the weather's inclement and they figure, well, their guy has it in the bag? You never know. So that will be interesting to see how it plays out. I tend to think probably not. I think Trump supporters are fairly highly motivated. I think what's going to happen is not so much a mystery of who will win tonight, but which of the more back of the pack candidates will take a look at the situation after tonight and decide whether they want to proceed or not.
Yeah. Terry Bell, Civic Media News Director, will be following it tonight. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Pat.
Thank you, Mr. Mathers, for filling in such a lovely manner before Greg Bach returns tomorrow, it looks like. And just a remander, you can stay up to date on everything we do at Up North News by heading over to upnorthnewswi.com. You can sign up for our newsletter over there. Just click newsletter in the banner on the top page, and you can follow us on social media as well. So thanks so much again for being part of our Monday. Have a great day. We'll see you at 6 a.m. tomorrow, live from Lake Minnesota on the Civic Media Radio Network.